The alarm rang through Starbase Meridian like a scream. Everyone stopped what they were doing. The sound meant danger. It meant something was very wrong. Ambassador Theron stood in the diplomatic wing, his body frozen with fear. His 4 eyes were wide. His claws had come out without him meaning to. His 2 cubs, Mika and Zane, were gone. The Velkari were one of the most feared species in the galaxy. They stood 8 feet tall with black fur that shined like metal. Their claws could cut through steel doors. Their teeth could crush bones. They were hunters, born and raised to be the best predators in known space. Other species respected them. Many species feared them. But right now Theron was just a scared father. Captain Jake Murphy walked quickly to where Theron stood. Jake was a human, which meant he was smaller than most aliens on the station. He had brown hair and green eyes that looked tired. He was in charge of security on Starbase Meridian, and this was turning into his worst day. "How long have they been missing?" Jake asked. His voice was calm, which helped Theron focus. 30 minutes, Theron said. His translator made his words sound flat, but anyone could hear the pain underneath. They were watching the stars through the big window. I looked away for just a moment. Just one moment. Lieutenant Amy Grant was already checking the security cameras. Her fingers moved fast across the screen, pulling up videos from all over the station. "Sir, I found something." The cubs left through the north hallway at 1432. "Show me," Jake said. The video appeared on the big screen. 2 small Velkari cubs walked down the hallway. They were only as big as human children, maybe 3 feet tall. Their ears pointed forward like they were curious about something. They moved with the smooth grace that all Velkari had, even the babies. Then they turned a corner and the camera could not see them anymore. "Get security teams to every level," Jake ordered. "And find Corporal Danny Hayes, he was patrolling that area." The human security teams moved fast. This surprised many of the aliens on the station. Humans were not the strongest species. They were not the fastest. They did not have the best technology, but they were good at working together and they never gave up. Theron's mate Lissa arrived quickly. Her fur had silver streaks that showed her age and wisdom. Right now her fur was standing up, making her look bigger and more dangerous. "You lost my cubs?" Her voice was soft, but it made everyone in the room step back. A soft voice from a Velkari was more dangerous than a loud one. "We're looking everywhere," Jake promised. "Corporal Hayes was the last person in that area. We are trying to find him now." "Find him faster," Lissa said. It was not a request. The security chief, Linda Price, kept pulling up more camera footage. She was 40 years old and had seen many emergencies in her time on the station. But losing the cubs of a Velkari ambassador was near the top of the list of bad things that could happen. "The cubs just vanished," Linda muttered. She watched the video again and again, trying to understand. They walked around that corner and then nothing. No more cameras picked them up. "They must be somewhere," Jake said. He was trying to stay calm, but inside he was worried. If something happened to those cubs, it would not just be a tragedy. It would be a disaster for human and Velkari relations. The Velkari were powerful allies. Making them angry would be very bad. More security teams spread out across the station. They checked every room, every hallway, every storage closet. They asked everyone they met if they had seen 2 small Velkari cubs. Nobody had seen anything. "This does not make sense," Carlos Martinez said. He was a sergeant in the security force, a good man who had been doing this job for 10 years. "Cubs that small cannot just disappear. Someone must have seen them." Theron paced back and forth like a caged animal. His claws clicked on the metal floor. Every few seconds he would stop and sniff the air, trying to catch his cub's scent. But the station's air recycling system made that impossible. Lisa stood perfectly still, but her eyes moved constantly, watching every screen, every person. She was a hunter, and right now she was hunting for any clue about her babies. "What about the lower levels?" Amy suggested. "Maybe they went down instead of staying on this level." "Check them all," Jake ordered. "And someone please find out why Corporal Hayes is not answering his communicator." A young technician looked up from his station. "Sir, his device shows as offline. It looks like equipment failure. It stopped working about 47 minutes ago." Jake closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Of course Hayes's communicator was broken. Of course it was. "All right, we do this the old way. Send teams to find him on foot. Check his normal patrol route." What none of them knew was that Danny Hayes was on the lower observation deck right now. He had no idea that everyone was looking for him. He had no idea that his broken communicator had caused so much trouble. He was humming a song from Earth as he walked his patrol route, his boots making soft sounds on the floor. On his shoulders, 2 small Valkyrie cubs sat happily. Their tiny claws held onto his uniform, but they were being very careful not to scratch him. They made small purring sounds of joy. Danny pointed at a nebula through the big window. See that? That is the Horsehead Nebula. It is called that because it looks like a horse's head. Back on Earth, horses are these big, beautiful animals that people used to ride. The cubs chirped with interest, their heads tilting as they tried to understand. They did not know what a horse was, but they liked listening to Danny talk. "You two are the best patrol partners I have ever had," Danny said with a smile. "Much better than my last partner, who only wanted to talk about sports." The cubs purred louder, snuggling closer to his neck. They felt safe with this strange, soft human who spoke in a kind voice and showed them wonderful things through the windows. Danny had no idea that these were not just any cubs. He had no idea they were the children of one of the most important ambassadors on the station. He just thought they were lost and needed someone to take care of them until he could find their parents. High above in the command center, the search continued. Time was passing and everyone was getting more worried. The cubs were out there somewhere, and nobody knew if they were safe. 6 hours before the alarm rang, Danny Hayes was having a normal day. The young man from Colorado was 24 years old with messy brown hair and a friendly smile. He had been given the night patrol shift, which meant walking through the quiet parts of the starbase and making sure everything was okay. It was peaceful work. He liked it because he could think and look at the stars through the big windows. Danny walked through the recreation sector when he heard a sound. It was soft, like a baby cat crying. He stopped and listened. Back home on his family's ranch, they had barn cats that made sounds like that. Danny had always loved animals. His mother used to say he brought home every stray creature he found. The sound came again. It was coming from somewhere close. Danny followed the sound to a small space near the plant laboratories. There, in the shadows, he saw 2 of the cutest creatures he had ever seen. They looked like a mix between a baby panther and a wolf pup. They had big ears that seemed too large for their heads. Their eyes were bright gold and sparkled with intelligence. "Hey there, little ones," Danny said softly. He got down on one knee to seem less scary. He had learned that young animals felt safer when you got down to their level. "Where is your mama?" The cubs tilted their heads, looking at him with those big golden eyes. They seemed to be thinking about him, deciding if he was safe or dangerous. Then, to Danny's surprise, they walked right up to him. They rubbed against his legs like cats do, making soft purring sounds. Danny knew he should probably call someone. He should find out what kind of aliens these cubs were and return them to their parents. But they seemed so happy and comfortable with him. Plus, his communicator chose that exact moment to beep once and die. The screen went dark. "Well, that is just perfect," Danny said, but he smiled. He could not help it. One of the cubs was climbing up his leg using its tiny claws. The claws were sharp, but the cub was being very gentle, like it knew not to hurt him. The little one reached his shoulder and sat there, purring like a small motor. The second cub looked up at him with such big, sad eyes that Danny laughed. All right. You can come up too." He picked up the second cub and put it on his other shoulder. "You two can stay with me while I figure out where you belong. But no scratching, okay? This uniform has to last me all week." The cubs made happy chirping sounds. They seemed to agree. Danny kept walking his patrol route with his new friends. He showed them different stars through the windows. He told them stories about Earth, about the mountains in Colorado where he grew up, about the horses on his family's ranch. The cubs listened to every word, their ears pointed forward with interest. "You know what you remind me of?" Danny said, gently scratching behind one cub's ear. "My old dog, Buster. He used to ride on my shoulders when he was a puppy, before he got too big. Of course, he was not as well behaved as you two." What Danny did not know was that these cubs were Valkyrie. The Valkyrie were one of the most dangerous predator species in the whole galaxy. Adult Valkyrie could track prey across entire planets. They could fight with amazing skill. They were very protective of their children. If an adult Valkyrie thought someone was threatening their cubs, that person would not live very long. Danny also did not know that every security officer on the station was looking for these cubs right now. He walked through the lower observation deck, showing the cubs a beautiful binary star system. "See those 2 stars spinning around each other? They have been dancing like that for millions of years. Isn't that something? The cubs purred louder. They pressed closer to his neck, feeling warm and safe. Danny had always been good with animals. Better than he was with people if he was honest. Animals did not judge you. They did not care if you said the wrong thing or were not good at small talk. They just wanted kindness and someone to care about them. When he was a kid, Danny was the one who found the injured bird and nursed it back to health. He was the one who stayed up all night with a sick calf. He was the one who could calm a frightened horse just by talking softly. His father used to say Danny had a gift. My dad would laugh if he could see me now, Danny told the cubs. Walking around a space station with alien cubs on my shoulders. He always said I would do something weird with my life. The cubs chirped and Danny felt like they were agreeing with him. Time passed. Danny showed the cubs more stars, more nebulas, more wonders of space. He told them about Earth's oceans, even though he had never seen one himself. He told them about snow-capped mountains that touched the sky. He told them about campfires and stories under the stars. The cubs seemed to love every minute of it. They made happy sounds and nuzzled against him. One of them started grooming his hair with its tiny tongue, which tickled and made Danny laugh. Okay, I know my hair is messy, Danny said, but you do not need to fix it for me. He sat down on the floor near a big window that showed a beautiful view of a nearby planet. The cubs climbed down from his shoulders and started playing with each other. They wrestled and tumbled, making small growling sounds that were more cute than scary. Danny watched them play and felt happy. It was nice to have company, even if that company was two alien cubs who he would have to return to their parents eventually. He hoped their parents were not too worried. The cubs seemed healthy and happy, so they probably had not been lost for very long. I should really try to find your folks, Danny said. But since my communicator is broken, I guess we are stuck together for a bit longer. Hope you do not mind. The cubs stopped playing and looked at him. Then they both walked over and climbed back onto his lap, curling up like they were going to sleep. Well, I guess we are taking a break then, Danny said softly. He leaned back against the wall and let the cubs rest. Their purring was like a lullaby. It reminded him of home, of simpler times when his biggest worry was whether the fence needed fixing or if it would rain before they finished bringing in the hay. He closed his eyes for just a moment, one hand resting gently on each cub. They were warm and soft, and their steady breathing was peaceful. Danny had no idea that security teams were tearing the station apart looking for these cubs. He had no idea that their parents were terrified. He had no idea that his simple act of kindness was about to change everything. He just knew that these two little ones needed someone to watch over them. And Danny Hayes had never been able to walk away from someone who needed help, even if he should have realized that they were not ordinary cubs. Even if he should have known better than to treat unknown alien creatures like pets. But that was Danny. His heart was bigger than his common sense. Always had been. Probably always would be. The cub slept peacefully on his lap, trusting completely in this strange human who smelled like kindness and spoke in a gentle voice. Above them, the stars continued their eternal dance, unaware of the small drama unfolding on the space station below. Security Chief Linda Price stared at dozens of video screens in the command center. Her blue eyes were tired from looking at so many cameras at once. She was trying to find two small cubs in a station that had thousands of rooms and hallways. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack, except the needle could move and hide. Still nothing in the living areas, Sergeant Carlos Martinez reported. He sounded frustrated. We have checked every single room twice, some of them 3 times. Those cubs did not just vanish into thin air, Linda said. She pulled up the last video of the cubs again. She had watched it so many times she had it memorized. They are small, but they are not invisible. Captain Jake Murphy stood next to her with his arms crossed. Ambassador Theron and his mate Lisa had not left the command center. They stood like statues watching everything. Their presence made everyone nervous. The Velkari were powerful allies, but they were also dangerous. If something bad happened to their cubs, there would be serious problems. Wait, Linda said suddenly. She stopped one of the video feeds. Go back to camera 47, the lower observation deck. Timestamp 15:05. The video went backward, then played forward again. There, clear as day, was Corporal Danny Hayes walking past the camera. On his shoulders were 2 small shapes. Even though the video was not perfectly clear, everyone could see they were Velkari cubs. Is that Hayes? Carlos asked, leaning closer to the screen. Yes. Linda confirmed. And he has the cubs. The command center exploded into action. Everyone started talking at once. Theron moved so fast he was just a blur. His eyes locked onto the screen. That human has my children. He appears to be keeping them safe, Jake said carefully. He watched the video closely. Danny was pointing at something through a window and the cubs were looking where he pointed. They do not look scared or hurt. They look comfortable, Lysa said. Her voice was confused. Too comfortable. Why are they not afraid of him? It was a very good question. Velkari cubs were taught from birth to be careful around other species. Their instincts should have made them stay away from an unknown alien. Instead, they were sitting on the human's shoulders like he was their personal ride. Get Hayes on the communicator, Jake ordered. Sir, his device has been offline for 47 minutes, a technician said. It looks like it broke. Of course it did, Jake said, rubbing his eyes. Fine, we do this the old way. Martinez, take a team and find Hayes on the lower observation deck. Be careful. We do not want to scare the cubs. Yes, sir, Carlos said. I am coming with you, Theron stated. It was not a request, Jake nodded. Just remember, Hayes clearly does not know what he has on his shoulders. This looks like an honest mistake, not a kidnapping. Linda pulled up more videos of Danny's patrol route while the security team got ready to go. What she found was actually kind of sweet. The young man was clearly talking to the cubs, waving his hands as he explained things. The cubs watched everything he did with clear interest. He thinks they are pets, Linda said quietly. He is treating them like children, Lysa corrected. There was something strange in her voice now. It was not anger anymore. He is showing them the stars. The security team moved through the hallways quietly. Carlos led the way. Theron and Lysa followed close behind. The Velkari parents moved with smooth grace, but everyone could see how tense they were. Their claws were out. Their ears were flat against their heads. They found Danny on the lower observation deck, exactly where the cameras showed he would be. He was sitting on the floor now. The cubs were playing around him, rolling and wrestling with each other. Danny watched them with a big smile on his face. Careful there, little one, Danny was saying. Do not hurt your brother now. Theron made a sound deep in his throat. It was something between a growl and a cry. Both cubs' heads snapped around immediately. Their ears pointed forward. Then they made high-pitched chirping sounds and ran toward their parents. Danny jumped to his feet fast. His hand moved toward his weapon before his brain caught up. Then he saw Ambassador Theron and his mate, and his face went white. Ambassador Theron? I did not know these were your... Oh no. The truth hit Danny like a punch. The cubs he had been playing with and carrying around like puppies were Velkari. Apex predators, the children of one of the most powerful ambassadors in the Union. He had accidentally kidnapped them. I am so sorry, Danny said quickly. His face was pale. I did not realize what they were. My communicator died and they seemed lost and I thought I should help them and I never meant to. He stopped talking because both Velkari parents had dropped to their knees. They were nuzzling their cubs, checking them for injuries. The little ones chirped and purred, clearly happy to see their parents. But they also kept looking back at Danny, like they were sad playtime was over. Lysa stood up to her full height. She was huge, much bigger than Danny. She could have killed him with one swipe of her claws, but her voice was soft when she spoke. You kept them safe. You kept our children safe. They were alone and I could not leave them, Danny said. He sounded helpless. They are just babies. Theron studied Danny for a long moment with all four of his eyes. Then slowly he held out his hand the way humans do when they greet each other. You have our gratitude, Corporal Hayes. Not many species would approach Velkari cubs with kindness instead of fear. Danny shook the offered hand. He still looked shocked. With respect, sir, they just looked like scared kids to me. What species they were did not really matter. It was perhaps the most human thing he could have said. Carlos and the other security officers stood back, not sure what to do. This was not how they expected this to go. They thought there would be anger, maybe even violence. Instead, the Velkari parents seemed grateful. You did not know what they were? Lysa asked Danny. No, ma'am, Danny admitted. I thought they might be someone's pets at first. Then I realized they were too smart for that, but I did not know they were Velkari until just now. And yet you cared for them anyway, Theron said. Well, yes, Danny said, like it was obvious. They were alone and probably scared. I could not just walk away. The two cubs had stopped clinging to their parents. Now they were trying to get back to Danny. They pulled against their mother's gentle hold, reaching toward the human with their small paws. Lissa looked surprised. They bonded with you. In just a few hours, they bonded with you. I do not know about that, Danny said. I just talked to them and showed them some stars. Nothing special. To you, perhaps it was not special, Theron said. But to cubs who were lost and alone, it was everything. Jake finally stepped forward. He looked at Danny with an expression that was half amused and half exasperated. Hayes, you just caused a station-wide panic. Every security officer has been looking for these cubs for over an hour. I am really sorry, sir, Danny said. If my communicator had been working? I know, Jake interrupted. We will talk about proper procedure later. Right now, I think Ambassador Theron and his family need some time together. But Theron shook his head. There is one more thing. He looked at Danny seriously. You said you showed them the stars. Would you tell me what you told them? Danny blinked, confused. I just pointed out some constellations and nebulas. Told them stories about Earth, nothing important. Everything is important when teaching the young, Lisa said gently. What stories did you tell? So Danny, still confused, told them about the Horsehead Nebula and horses, about the mountains and snow, about barn cats and dogs and his family's ranch. As he talked, the cubs finally broke free from their mother and climbed back onto Danny's shoulders, purring loudly. Theron and Lissa watched this with unreadable expressions. You have a gift, Corporal Hayes, Theron finally said. The gift of seeing others as they truly are, not as you fear them to be. Danny did not know what to say to that. He just stood there with 2 Velkari cubs on his shoulders, feeling more confused than he had ever felt in his life. But one thing was clear. This day had not gone at all the way anyone expected. The report about the incident was 12 pages long. Captain Jake Murphy spent most of the morning trying to explain to Starbase Command how a junior corporal accidentally took 2 Velkari cubs and somehow made it turn into a good thing. The people in charge were not happy about the taking part, but they could not argue with the results. Danny Hayes became famous on the station overnight. The story spread faster than a fire. Everyone was talking about the human who treated deadly predator cubs like barn cats, the corporal who gave 2 of the galaxy's most dangerous babies shoulder rides and showed them the stars. You are trending on 6 different planets' news networks, Lieutenant Amy Grant told him. She was smiling as she showed him her datapad. There is even art. Look, someone drew a picture of you. Danny put his face in his hands. This is terrible. Are you kidding? You are a hero. Look at this one. She showed him a drawing of him with the cubs on his shoulders. It was done in a cute cartoon style. The title says The Human Who Did Not Know Fear. I am not brave, Danny said. I am just stupid. I did not even realize what they were. The truth was that Danny felt embarrassed about the whole thing. He had broken about 15 different rules. His commanding officers spent hours yelling and trying to figure out if they should punish him or give him a medal. The fact that everything worked out okay did not change the fact that he had messed up badly. What surprised him most was getting invited to Ambassador Theron's home for dinner. Danny thought Theron would be angry, maybe even want to press charges. Instead, he got an invitation for a meal. The Velkari living space was beautiful in a strange alien way. The lights were low. The furniture was designed for beings who were much bigger and shaped differently than humans. Theron and Lisa greeted him warmly at the door. Then, to Danny's shock, both cubs came running out from a back room as soon as they smelled him. They have been asking for you, Lissa explained. She sounded amused as the cubs climbed up Danny's legs to sit on his shoulders again. We could not make them understand why you could not visit. I did not think you would want me to come, Danny admitted. I am really sorry about everything. You say sorry too much, Theron said. He motioned for Danny to sit down. The cubs settled in Danny's lap instead of going back to their parents. They purred like little motors. Among my people, what you did is considered a great honor. You protected children who were not yours without thinking about your own safety. They were just lost kids, Danny said again. He did not know how else to explain it. Back home, we do not leave young ones alone. It does not matter whose they are. Lisa tilted her head, studying him with those sharp amber eyes. You come from a pack culture, then? Where everyone raises the young together? I guess so. Small town in Colorado. Everybody looked after everybody's kids. Danny scratched behind Mika's ears. The cub purred even louder. Is that not normal out here? Most species are very protective of their own children, Theron explained. The idea of a stranger caring for someone else's offspring is unusual. In many cultures, it would be seen as a threat or an insult. That is sad, Danny said honestly. Kids should be protected by everyone, not just their parents. What if the parents are not around? What if something happens? The dinner was nice. The Valkyrie told stories about their home planet. They talked about hunting under 3 moons and family bonds that lasted for generations. Danny shared stories about Earth, about horses and cattle drives, about teaching his younger cousins to ride, about helping deliver baby cows in the spring. Your world raised you well, Danny Hayes, Lisa said as the evening got late. The cubs had fallen asleep in Danny's lap. Their small chests went up and down with peaceful breaths. You have the heart of a protector. I just do what feels right, Danny said. He gently petted the cub's soft fur. That is exactly why you are special, Theron said. Many beings know what is right. Very few act on it without thinking twice. Danny carefully moved the sleeping cubs back to their parents. As he did, Theron touched his shoulder gently. We would be honored if you would visit again. The cubs have bonded with you. Such bonds are not made lightly among my people. Danny was surprised. You want me to come back? We would be insulted if you did not, Lisa said warmly. You are packed now, Danny Hayes, whether you understand it or not. Walking back to his room that night, Danny could not help but smile. He had somehow gone from almost causing an interstellar incident to being adopted by one of the galaxy's most dangerous species. His mother back home would never believe this story. His new communicator beeped. There was a message from Captain Murphy asking him to come to the office in the morning. Danny sighed. There would be more paperwork, more questions, probably more lectures about following the rules, but there would also be 2 small cubs who thought he was worth trusting. Parents who saw value in his simple act of kindness. In the big picture of the galaxy, maybe that mattered more than rules. The next morning, Danny reported to Captain Murphy's office. He expected to be yelled at some more. Instead, Jake looked at him with an odd expression. Hayes, I have been doing this job for 15 years, Jake said. I have dealt with diplomatic incidents, space pirates, and more paperwork than any human should have to read. But I have never seen anything quite like what you did. I really did not mean to cause trouble, sir, Danny started. Jake held up his hand. I know. That is what makes this interesting. You did not try to be a hero. You did not think about what it might mean. You just saw kids who needed help and helped them. Yes, sir. Do you know what Ambassador Theron said to me this morning? Jake asked. He said that humans might be the first species in the galaxy that does not see everything through the lens of strong versus weak. That we see people who need help and help them. Danny did not know what to say to that. The Valkyrie are requesting that you be assigned as a cultural liaison, Jake continued. They want you to help teach their cubs about humans and human culture. It is a high honor. It is also completely unusual. They want me to what? Danny asked. Teach their cubs, Jake repeated. Show them Earth customs. Tell them stories. Basically, keep doing what you were doing on the observation deck, but officially. Danny thought about it. Would I still have my normal duties? Modified schedule, Jake said. You would work with the cubs a few hours a week. The rest of the time, normal patrol. And Hayes, this could be good for human-Valkyrie relations. It shows trust. It shows connection. Then I will do it, Danny said. If it helps, Jake smiled. Somehow I knew you would say that. Later that day, Danny met with Mika and Zane again. This time it was official. He was their cultural teacher now. The cubs were so excited they could barely sit still. They climbed all over him, purring and chirping. Theron and Lisa watched from the doorway. He does not know what he has given us, Lisa said softly in their own language, which Danny could not understand. He gave us back our children, Theron replied. And he showed us that not all species think like predators or prey. Some just think like friends. Danny sat on the floor with the 2 cubs and started telling them a story about a boy and his dog growing up on a ranch. The cubs listened like it was the most important thing they had ever heard. And maybe in some small way it was. 3 weeks after what everyone now called the Cub incident, Starbase Meridian was hosting a big gathering. Ambassadors from all across the sector were coming to the station. It was supposed to be a normal diplomatic meeting, but everyone knew the real reason so many showed up. They wanted to see the human who befriended the Valkyrie cubs. Danny stood in his dress uniform feeling completely out of place. The room was full of important people and powerful aliens. Captain Jake Murphy had insisted Danny attend. He said something about cultural exchange and positive human representation. Danny thought it was probably punishment for all the paperwork he had caused. "Relax. Corporal," Linda Price whispered to him. "You are not in trouble." "It feels like I am," Danny whispered back. The evening started with the usual diplomatic talk. Careful words and polite conversations that did not really say much. Danny tried to stay out of the way. He held a drink and counted the minutes until he could leave. Then Ambassador Theron moved to the center of the room and Danny's stomach dropped. "Honored guests," Theron began. His voice carried easily across the space. "I come before you to talk about something that has caused much discussion across our networks." Here it comes, Danny thought. The formal apology, the promise to have better security. 3 weeks ago, my cubs went missing on this station. For a terrible time, my mate and I feared the worst. What we found instead has changed many of my beliefs about the galaxy we share. Theron's eyes found Danny in the crowd. "We found our children with Corporal Danny Hayes. He is a human who discovered them wandering alone and chose to protect them. He did not know what species they were. He did not know they were the children of an ambassador. He simply saw children who needed help and acted." Whispers spread through the room. Some aliens looked doubtful. Others looked curious. "What struck me most," Theron continued, "was how natural this was for him. He did not expect a reward. He did not think about political advantage. In his culture, this is simply what one does. Children are protected by the community, not just by their parents." Lisa stepped forward. The cubs walked beside her. They had grown in 3 weeks. They were bigger now, more coordinated, more alert. "My people believe the galaxy is divided into predators and prey, hunters and hunted, but Corporal Hayes showed us something different. Guardians who protect without possessing, who care without claiming." To Danny's horror, both cubs immediately left their mother's side and ran to him. They were too big now to sit comfortably on his shoulders, but they pressed against his legs. Their purring was loud enough for everyone in the room to hear. "The bond between humans and my children is recognized by our people," Theron announced. "Danny Hayes is Packkin, a guardian accepted by blood and choice. This is an honor we do not give lightly." The room erupted into surprised chatter. Packkin's status among the Velkari was legendary. It basically made Danny family in the eyes of one of the most powerful species in the Union. An ambassador from the Zentari delegation stepped forward. The Zentari looked like spiders made of crystal. "This is unusual. The human had no authority over Velkari children. By what right did he take guardianship?" "By the same right any moral being should have," Lissa replied sharply. "The right to protect those who cannot protect themselves." "But humans are prey species," another voice said. "It belonged to a Kravik merchant. They lack the instincts to recognize predator young as dangerous." Danny felt his temper rise. "With respect, sir, I do not think intelligence and compassion depend on where you are in a food chain. Those cubs were lost and scared. That was all that mattered." "You were not afraid?" the Kravik pressed. "Velkari cubs could easily harm you, even young ones." "So could a lot of things back on my home planet," Danny said with a shrug. "Mountain lions, bears, rattlesnakes. We learn to respect them, not fear them, and when you find babies of any species, you help them. That is just being decent." An old Thressin delegate made a humming sound. The Thressin had scales and looked almost like earth lizards, but much bigger. "Perhaps this is why humans have been successful in the Union, despite their physical limitations. They do not see the galaxy through the lens of predator and prey. They see people," Lisa agreed. "Just people who need help sometimes." The gathering continued for hours. The tone had changed, though. Danny found himself surrounded by curious aliens asking questions. They wanted to know about Earth customs, about how humans raised their young, about the idea of community guardianship. Some were skeptical, some were dismissive, but many seemed genuinely interested. Captain Murphy caught Danny's eye from across the room. He raised his glass in a subtle salute. Despite all the chaos and broken rules, something good was happening. The galaxy was starting to see humans differently, not as weak prey to be protected or dismissed, but as something the cosmos had not seen before. As the evening ended, Danny found himself on an observation deck with Theron, Lissa, and the cubs. Mika and Zane were play-fighting nearby. Their movements already showed the deadly grace they would have as adults. "You know this changes things," Theron said quietly. "Packkin's status means you are family now. If you need help, any Velkari would be honor-bound to give it. If you face danger, we face it with you. I did not do it for rewards, Danny said. We know, Lissa assured him. That is exactly why you deserve them. You acted from your heart. That is the mark of true character. Danny watched the cubs tumble through the starlight coming through the window. Back home, my grandmother used to say that kindness is never wasted. Even when it seems small, even when nobody's watching, it spreads out in ways you cannot predict. Your grandmother was wise, Theron said. By protecting two small cubs, you reminded an entire station that there are things more important than strength or status. You reminded us of compassion. The cubs finished playing and walked over to Danny. They settled down beside him with happy purrs. One rested its head on his boot. The other leaned against his leg. They felt safe with him, these apex predators in training. Somehow that meant more to Danny than all the diplomatic praise. Do you think this will actually change anything? Danny asked. Out there in the bigger galaxy? Lisa's eyes reflected the stars as she thought about it. Perhaps not everywhere. Not all at once. But stories spread, Danny Hayes. Stories of the human who protected predator cubs without fear, of the species that values all children, not just their own. Some will dismiss it. Others will remember. And some, Theron added with what might have been a smile, will realize that maybe humans are not as simple as they thought. That maybe there is strength in gentleness, power in protection, courage in kindness. The cub's purring got louder. It vibrated through Danny's bones. He thought about his family back on Earth, about the values they taught him without him even realizing it, about community and responsibility and the simple act of caring about others. Well, Danny said softly, if all I did was help two kids get home safely, that is enough for me. But deep down, looking at the stars and the strange, wonderful beings he now shared them with, Danny knew his grandmother had been right. Kindness did spread outward in unexpected ways. His simple act of decency had created waves that would travel far beyond this station, far beyond this moment. In a galaxy that often divided itself into categories of strong and weak, predator and prey, one young human from Colorado had reminded everyone of a simpler truth. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is care for someone who is not your responsibility to care for, and sometimes that changes everything. The cubs slept peacefully beside him as the stars wheeled overhead. Two small ambassadors of a new understanding between species. Not all humans would react the way Danny had. Not all Velkari would have accepted his help so easily, but it was a start. And in the vast, complicated universe of galactic civilization, sometimes a start was all you needed. The story of the predator cubs who disappeared and turned up riding on a human's shoulders during patrol would be told for years to come. But the real story was simpler. A young man saw children who needed help and did not hesitate. Everything else was just details. Years later, when people asked Danny about that day, he never understood why everyone made such a big deal about it. He just did what anyone should do. He helped, but that perhaps was the point. In a galaxy full of complicated politics and ancient divisions, sometimes it took someone simple and honest to show everyone what really mattered. The cubs grew up hearing stories about Earth, about mountains and horses and a small town in Colorado where everyone looked after each other. They learned that strength came in many forms. That protection was more important than power. That family was not just blood, but choice and love. And when they had cubs of their own someday, they would teach them the same lessons. They would tell them about the human who found them when they were lost and scared, who carried them on his shoulders, who showed them the stars. They would teach them that kindness was never wasted, that compassion knew no species, that sometimes the strongest thing you could do was simply care. The galaxy was a big place, full of different species and cultures and ways of thinking, but on one small space station, on one ordinary day, a young human named Danny Hayes proved that some truths were universal. Children needed protecting. Kindness mattered, and family was